Welcome to another edition of Google is Evil. Formerly What the Fuck, but whatever. Same difference. It all has fuck in it. You are fucked, I'm fucked, we're all fucked. Anyway, it just depends on how much, right? It's really not about being ruined. It's just about how bad the ruin will be. Shit. Anyway. Yeah, video. So I made one. That's what I do. Sort of have a routine, so I'll try to make it more routine, but whatever. Just haven't. It's always something. Life gets in the way. Blah blah blah. That's a phrase. Crap happens. Yeah, there you go. Shit happens. It seems to happen routinely, and I end up being routinely obstructed in my attempt to go somewhere better, to do more, by the shit that gets in the way. So I have to increase my shit potential, to overcome the shit. But whatever, blah blah blah. So I was just thinking. Okay, so I did a video on the brain. I used beans as an analogy, sort of. And I was thinking, why did my brain use beans? And okay, it comes down to like the counting the beans in the jar, and they would have like contests, count how many beans are in this jar. And then when they talked about volume or something, in grammar school, they would talk about beans in a jar, and you could count the beans, or you can just see the size of the beans, and then you count the airspace, and blah blah blah. And so that's why it becomes a usable analogy, is because my brain just used what it had available, somebody else's analogy, so to speak. And I could have said something like pennies in a jar. Now, why would I say pennies in a jar? Well, because my father had a jar of pennies when I was a kid. Cans, actually, cans of pennies, 4 or 5 of them. When I was a kid, it was like, that's $1 million, right? It's probably $10, whatever. It's just, it looked like $1 million. And the purpose was to go through the pennies and find the old ones and blah 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 blah. But whatever. So I could have used that analogy. But then pennies aren't as uniform as beans, because pennies can stick together and they can mess up the whole idea of the randomness can be, because pennies can have a lot more order. So they don't make a very good, they're not as perfect an analogy or perfect a tool. But it's just the fact that in thinking about it, my brain is thinking about other references, and you can just see the connections. You can see the connection between the can of beans, can of jar, can of pennies, and it just and then the memories of collecting, and then collecting things makes me remember stamps, and then it's all connected. And they're all connected memories, essentially, connected moments, images, sometimes just vague ones even. They're just concepts, and they're concepts tied to your personal experience, so you're usually in the concept in some way or other. The concept is somehow relevant to what you have seen. You don't really... Well, I won't even say it because I'm not sure. You don't really just make it up. But, part of your brain just makes it up. That's how you end up with these fake memories. But anyway. Okay. So, so that's just throwing it in there. That, okay, that's the conversation. It's about how does our brain create our, us. How are us, how is us made? How do we us? How do we do it? And you can never, you can't really describe the actual function. You can only do it as a spotted model of conceptual notions. So just like your brain is manipulating concepts, you can only manipulate concepts as a model for how the brain manipulates its storage of your sensual experience. On this planet, your history, and what you have, what's happened in front of you versus what happened behind you and you didn't see it, that kind of stuff. Anyway, so yeah, we'll play some of it, and I probably won't get into all that technical crap. I'll just be triggered by the words being spoken and say something relevant to the words being spoken, I guess. That'll be my plan, maybe. You know, deliberate and logical. Alright, so I probably need to turn the volume down a little bit and such. Probably, I don't know how much, but yeah, well, we'll turn it down to there. We'll turn it down to there, sorry. I mean, that, I should do that in the background. Behind your back. Typical conversation about how we function. So, okay, I can barely hear that, so that's not good enough for me. Anyway. Alright, so yeah, it's just about how we function. You know, it's a given. I mean, there's other conversations proving we're robots, you know, that there is no free will stuff. We don't, you know, we don't choose from the universes of choices. We only choose, we only decide from the universe of our life experience. You can't just choose to play Beethoven on the piano. You know, can't just choose it. It has to be among the stuff you have acquired as attributes or abilities. Oh, we don't need more of that. Jump ahead a little. Try to pretend it all doesn't exist and I don't have to do anything. Okay, so I was talking about meditation because this was sort of provoked by the mystic, modern mystic conversation. And it's just so far short of the brain conversations he used to be able to have, or was used to be willing to have. And, you know, it I guess underlied his philosophy back then, but he just wasn't as free in speaking about it. You know, he concedes the bleakness of life as a thought experiment, as something you logically describe, and yet, but the solution is don't fix it, run away, find escapes from the reality, avoid contemplating it or any strategy to fix it. Okay, just concede it's broken and run. You know, which doesn't fix anything. It's really bad for the future. The future needs us not to run. That's sort of the main point. Running will not save the future, and frankly, the future is just you again. It won't be you, but it's going to be close enough to you to be you. And you're going to sit here doing this same thing again, saying, why didn't the past fix it so I didn't have to do it? Why do I have to do it? Why didn't they do it? Not so much contrived, but, you know, use the scheming part of the brain, the modeling. Right. So there's no real difference. It just depends. You're just using the same kind of mechanism when somebody's scheming, manipulating, exploiting. All those activities are the same as the, you know, when you're doing it like with honest material. So when you're honestly thinking, and when you're dishonestly thinking, I mean, it's the same thinking. You know, it's the same mechanism. So you're scheming when you're solving problems. It's just that you're doing it in a container that is made out of reason and good thoughts and good concepts, where when you're scheming, you're basically saying, what's in it for me? How do I maximize my advantage? Who cares how much it costs somebody else? You know, that kind of thing. So the difference between a scheme and a plan, okay, is just the motivation, the concepts you're manipulating, whether they're the truth or the dishonest lie that if I win, it's a better world. Yeah, no, that's not how it works. I mean, conceding the loss is somebody else's loss. That somehow I win, they lose works, where if it's they win and I lose, that's a failure. No, those are both failures. It's win-win or nothing, frankly. So it's that simple. We either have a win-win game or we don't play. Period. The logic's that simple. Show, watch the movie. Go place. All right, so I'm just saying that all meditation is a distraction. So just find some other distraction. Find some other way to put your brain in a place where you will have happy thoughts, where you will have simpler thoughts, where you will not be stressed by problems and having to solve them. That's all. So go. You don't need to meditate. You just need to fantasize, or you need to be distracted by something simpler. I mean, it's just a religion to create this fake notion that, I can empty my brain and what? I got this mosquito bite. Yeah, I have a stiff neck. Yeah, fuck that. Meditate. You have to be kind of feeling perfectly healthy for meditation to work, frankly, because it just gets you closer to the echoes inside. And the echoes inside, as soon as you evacuate I'm going to work on a problem, so I'm not going to work on any problems, so I'm just going to take all the problem solving and say, okay, don't do any scheming or thinking or conniving or contriving or any of that. No, just, okay, empty. Yeah, then the vessel, just every single feeling becomes really loud. So if you're not feeling great, you're going to feel worse. Yeah. Of peace, just put something else on the screen. Yeah, okay, so I'm still saying that. I don't really talk about that long, but whatever. I'm just getting to that conclusion that it's just a distraction. We're really not made to be distracted. We're really made to solve problems. We want solutions. It's just an unfortunate circumstance here. You see these kitten things happens here, and you can see them trying to solve their dilemmas. And then you have the thoughts of, how can I solve the problem of having to watch this, because I don't want to watch it. I don't want to clean up dead kitten. I just don't want to do this. So I need a solution. Then you start thinking about solutions, and you start saying, well, damn it, I don't want to close the yard off, because then the cats don't have any place to go, and they like lying down and being comfortable, and blah 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 blah. So your struggle, because there's no good answer, and that it's just going to keep happening over and over again, because nobody's doing anything about it, and it's just all depressing. So your will to solve is frustrated, and that ends up being a negative feeling. But you can know, okay, I can't, you have to do I can only do so much. I only have so much time. I can't worry about it all day. I just have to take that out and find some other problem to solve where maybe I can feel better, because I can successfully dig a hole and put a plant in it, so maybe I'll try that instead. That's all we do. I mean, that's all this living thing is trying to search for comfortable enough water that isn't ridiculously embarrassing to float in. I think it's ridiculously embarrassing to be floating in religion, or floating in your meditation, or floating in your guru bullshit mystic nonsense. Yeah, no, float in the real world, okay, but yeah, allow yourself to be drifted into the inlet, where it's a little calmer, okay, and then every now and then face the colder, harsher ocean of truth. And we all have to walk that line of how much time we spend in the inlet, playing in the nice, calm, warm water, and how much time we spend working, fighting the ocean. Back and forth in some intelligent conversation, and so I was just lamenting how it was nice. The old days you used to be able to have intelligent conversations. You could still disagree. It wasn't all this hostility. It wasn't blah 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 blah. And now you can't do any of that. And it's just kind of tragic that's just another sign, another problem to be solved, another social problem that seems intractable, that nobody can seem to do anything about, that It's just another symptom of the disease, of the decline of our progress. The fact that we peaked in the 70s or whatever, and now it's all downhill, and it's going downhill. Whether it's all downhill, who knows? But it has every appearance of now all the momentum is in very negative directions. But the concept word has the part that goes, the part that is. So the whole point is that we're just really, our identity is our beliefs, or is our concepts, the ideas that we have well tested and have become confident in. So somebody could be a capitalist because they know, oh well, capitalism always strong survive and blah blah blah, it always builds better. And I could be a socialist because I know it's all waste. Capitalism is waste. A bunch of empty warehouses, a bunch of destroyed businesses, a bunch of just incredible waste. All of that has to be paid for. So capitalism is not the best way to find out who's the best and reward them. It's a terrible way because you create all these losers that are incredibly expensive. We all have to pay for it. It's not free failure. So none of the failures are free. So having a system where you test something by creating a bunch of failures is a really bad idea. You've got to come up with a better way to test and a better way to reward. Alright, so I'm just explaining. So these are concepts. And once you become one of these categories of things, you believe in this thing. I believe in evolution. I don't believe in free will. You can have just a string of ideas. And once those ideas are all in a collection, they can become a new concept of atheist, or they can become a realist, some other concept. Beans made out of beans. To form a type of muscle memory. So that it's all reflexes, and that's what your brain just keeps reinforcing things, and it has a trigger though. It has a mechanism where over time it has been figured out by evolution and this whole process of testing that you're a better functioning machine if you do remember deeply into the past now and then. If you pull pieces of your past identity, of who you used to be, and now and then throw them onto the surface to be retested, just to see if you might not have gone astray. So people could have their Scrooge moment, where they've become a greedy miser, thinking only of themselves, and then they have a vision of their past, and that vision of their past says to them, gee, I hated jackasses like me when I was a kid. And why was I wrong when I was a kid? And then they realize I wasn't wrong. I'm a hateable jackass. I've become a hateable jackass, and I should fix that. So I'm just saying that's how the brain works, is that it preserves the potential, constant testing, constant evaluation. All of those balances of keeping yourself fit for your modeling projects. Right, so the balance is between keeping the machine functioning and having the machine challenge choppy water. You can't let the machine get swallowed up by the project. You can't be destroyed by the project of fighting the ocean. So there has to be this crappy balance where you wear your raincoat and you have your umbrella, and you have to use these tools to protect yourself from becoming psychotic and depressed and a lot of negative things that'll eventually turn you into a spiraling failure. And I don't have answers to any of those questions because I'm always on the precipice. I'm clinging to the cliff to try not to get caught up in the whirlwind. And I've fundamentally spent my whole life clinging, barely grasping on to my capacity to reason and do logic and talk and do any of it, because there's part of me that is hysterically uncomfortable with my circumstance. So I don't know. The balance is very difficult, and I have no idea how I've even managed to maintain my existence, and it's been, frankly, a lot of good luck. Because not much else, there can't be much other excuse, because I remain a vulnerable character. Okay, the reflex is dull, and it's not like it's numb, but it just yeah. So I was talking about the the fact I had a stroke 20 years ago, and just the fact of how it gave me great insight into how the brain works, and the fact that I relearned, but the learning is in a completely different location in the brain, and so instead of it being in the calm base water of a well-established reflex of muscle memory, it's in the choppy water of the current, where all the movement's happening, where the concepts are moving all the time. And so I have this piece of which should be infrastructure stuck in the part that's always moving and always changing, and I've got to keep that intact. And so I can't always depend on what I have reacquired in terms of my reflexes. Sometimes they're just not going to work if the water's too choppy. They're going to get too broken up. Their continuity, the hard drive, will have it in so many pieces that it can't collect it and put it together in time, and it's too slow for the necessity of the circumstance. And anyway, it's just it's an insight into function through that process of how you can see how there are these levels of neurology. Some of the neurology is solid and will not be changed unless you kill it, by suffocating it. And some of the neurology is changing all the time. Some of the connections. So just thinking about that ended up, peripherally saying connected memories. Right, so even the conversation about how your brain works makes your brain start to triggers your brain into working and doing things, and you can actually watch that happen. You say the word memory, and then your brain starts to do, I remember this, and I remember that, and it starts to pull, not randomly, but pull memories. Because the word has meaning to the brain. The brain, when the word is thrown onto the surface, the brain reacts to the word as, whoa, that word showed up, and now it's reacting to the word. And it will now do, oh, I'm supposed to do memories. Oh, am I supposed to remember things, or are we talking about memory? It doesn't know. It's just reacting. So it starts doing memories when it's supposed to be just thinking about it as an abstraction. Taking all those on-off switches and combining them and mixing them. Alright, so just making the point that underlying everything are simple mechanical processes, and the fact is though, although our brain doesn't work like a calculator, the logic gates are not the same logic gates. It's still just on-off switches. It's still just a bunch of connecting of memory locations with on-off identities, yes-no answers, however you want to look at it, and that's all it is. And so it's doing the same kind of calculating with just huge volume of on and offs, and therefore you can create this this platform of connections, yes no, and so the yes has a yes no that made the yes, and then the yes no, that yes no has a yes no, so it's like an ancestry, that if you go back, you get this exponential growth in terms of the number of people you become related to, and then that also goes the other way, where it becomes it goes all the way back to the first humanoid, egg, whatever, the first baby that was a human, into to jump ahead. Okay, so it should be the last little bit. Well, that's way too far back, I guess. Should fix it, but nobody's motivated because they've all taken their. But I have a Google pad. Right, so we don't even fix the Google thing because too many people's personal interests are not, they don't have a personal incentive. And they have demotivated themselves with a bunch of rhetoric that nothing can be changed and nothing can be fixed and blah, 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 blah. So nothing can change and nothing can be fixed. So because they've all gone off and taken some pill, they've chosen, okay, their brain has decided, to invest in the concept of evasion. Just pretend it didn't happen. Run away. So anyway, so nothing gets addressed because nothing is made. They're just not getting poked hard enough or deep enough to for it to be unignorable. And because they aren't inconvenienced enough, they will do nothing. So anyway, and that's a real dilemma for all of us. We're all guilty, and it should be a point we emphasize to each other, that we constantly need encouragement to be better at cleaning this house, so to speak. Alright, so we'll call that a video and such, and so forth and whatnot. So many models to build, and so few people willing to engage in the process of that process, improving our models, improving our concepts, improving our strategies. Just nobody really gives a shit. Alright, got called away from their kind of lamentable, sad thing. Just all over the place, and everybody's just finding excuses to make excuses, to pretend it all isn't happening, or it didn't happen, or it doesn't matter, or whatever. And it's just really, you could pity the human race, and there's times when they just don't deserve any pity. Even though they have no will, okay, they can't control it, they're only byproducts. It's just a shitty byproduct. I don't know how they put together their facts to be able to play the game of, I'll just pretend it doesn't happen. I'll pretend it's happily ever after. I mean, that's so obviously rude, to pretend away all of that misfortune and pain and suffering. Because it wasn't yours, I'll just pretend it away. Because it's not mine, I'll pretend it away. That's just so rotten, that you can't, no pity. Till the next time, and such and so forth and whatnot. This has been a Do Not God video presentation. And yes, Google's evil, but it's another problem too few wish to solve. Lamentably, again, another big piece of crappy wave to defeat, and just too few people with shields trying to fight the enemy. So, shit. Yeah. Damn it.